So in our previous video, you saw us finally get the wiring harness out of the DTS, and we hooked it up to the engine, and miraculously it ran. So Mike's gone ahead and pulled the harness through the engine bay into the car, but we kind of hit a snag, so I'll let him sort of go from there.
Well, you can look at it here and see it's a little bit more of a tangle than a snag. So it's trying to lay out the wires to where we're going to have a seat over top of this, and you can have some wires on the footwell, but this is too much. We mounted the fuse box back here, which I like that. We could shove it all up underneath the passenger side, up underneath the dash, but if the heater core leaks or anything like that, it's going to put it on that fuse block, and I don't want that. So what I think we're going to do, which I didn't want to do, but we're going to hook this back up, and we're going to thin this wiring harness. We're going to cut off all the circuits that we don't need. And honestly, our build standards are a little bit higher than this.
Yeah, we want it to look semi-professional.
Backyard professional. Yeah, so hate kind of going backwards. The best way is to just slowly cut these, these connectors off. These go underneath the seat to a lot of things that we don't need. Can I say with absolute certainty when we start cutting these things, it's like, it's better off just to cut it and check it, cut it and check it, cut it and check it. That'd be so much better than cutting it all and then trying to figure out what we cut that needed to be actually there. So
cutting it in here, then getting the engine in the engine bay and realizing it doesn't run.
Yeah.
I seem to recall asking you why we didn't cut things.
We don't cut things because it is better to just leave it all together if we have room.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Anyway, so we have fat wiring harness in a little car, so we're gonna put it on Weight Watchers, slim it down. I wonder if they make Ozempic for wiring harnesses.
You look like a mouse that's trying to get a huge piece of cheese through the little mouse hole, like in Tom and Jerry or something.
Yeah, it's black as you can see right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either that or when Ace Ventura tries to come out of the rhino.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, come on.
Charles Meowkley.
Do what?
What did you just say?
I said we need to get the fuel pump and the fuel pump harness.
But I thought we have the fuel pump harness.
I don't think so.
There's something labeled fuel pump on
Correct.
The harness we
That's
have.
the other end that goes to the fuel pump harness.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll learn.
You've been trying for me to learn for years.
No child left behind.
You're using up your battery.
What? Go home, homie, when you made it. I said, you see that fuel pump harness right there, Bubba? I told you. I told you we left it in there.
Yes, Paul.
Oh, little millennial, everything you think is weird.
So you didn't think we'd need these?
Oh, I knew we would need them. I told you.
Because they're still down here. They're not up there.
We just got the other parts of the harness up there. So I knew we were going to need this because obviously I marked the 1 so we know that we need that part of the harness because it's going to go to this little mini harness.
Oh, are we taking the whole pump out?
Yeah, because how are we going to know if it works?
We're going to run it with the fuel pump.
Yeah, and wire. Am I pulling them?
Yes, you're pulling them. Yeah, you're pulling them.
Can you pull them up? Can you pull them, or it's probably stuck in it?
I'm pushing them through.
Oh, there you go.
You got it?
Yeah. Okay.
I could help or I could film. Pretty hard to do both, though.
Well, we know the filming is so important.
I think I need a disclaimer to say that I am not a professional YouTuber.
Are you doing
Or
it?
maybe that's just obvious.
Yeah, some things you just don't have to say. It works every time. How much gas is in there?
I know we said it before, but I'm amazed at how easy that is compared to the STS.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so there's the last part of the wiring harness that goes to the fuse block.
Yeah,
it runs
the
to
one
the,
that was missing that we said in our other video.
Yeah, it runs to the headlights.
But it started without it.
Yeah, but it just goes to the headlights and the hood latches and all that. The only thing we might need it for, and I have to check, would be the cooling fan, because we're going to use that wiring for the radiator. Here we can.
So we have the fuel pump hooked up to make sure that it'll run. Give it a little test off camera, and
We'll do it again. Ready?
we had a little accident. Are you
Should
gonna
do
do
it
it on
again.
purpose this time?
Yeah, we'll see if it'll still do it.
Okay.
It's a squirter.
Bro.
So the wiring harness was obviously taped all up here, and we have these connectors that I know we're not going to use. So instead of just cutting them off right here, what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to strip this entire harness back. Obviously, all these connectors here are not used. So instead of just cutting them off flush, we're going to slowly take them and pull them all the way back, and then we're left with a much smaller, slimmer harness with no connectors hanging out. So the only thing is it's going to be very time consuming to go through here and do it, but I think when it's done, it's going to be at least a manageable size wiring harness versus what we had before.
We might actually be able to fit a passenger seat.
Yeah, I think if it's going to be like this is the most difficult to drive, probably the most fun, like we'll have a lot of fun with this one. So
Yeah, it'd be a shame to have to wait in the paddock.
yeah. So if we take it to track days, we don't want to not be able to both ride in it. So I feel like we have to do this so we can have that.
Yeah.
So on a small level, we know we're going to need this ignition switch. So what we'll do is we'll just take a razor blade and carefully score the electrical tape so we can get rid of all this, so we can get to the wires. So again, I'm doing that really carefully to not cut any wires behind it. So I've gotten some of the, excuse me, the electrical tape pulled back here. And so just to show you on a little smaller scale here of what we're doing is this was way up here and we don't need this connector. So we're going to go and we're going to snip these off. But what we're going to do first, we're going to turn the key on and we're going to watch the dash. But something's unplugged. So we had this is a quick show, like, so this connector had to be plugged up where we didn't have anything. But before we cut anything, I want to be able to see that the gauges work and the engine turns over. And so then what we're going to do is I'm going to take some wire cutters. Okay, so obviously I found some wire cutters. I know this is not going to cause any problems, but we're going to just go and clip this off and we'll get a little bit of a pigtail. Right. And then we're going to go. Yep. So we know that that wasn't needed. And then the next step is, since we clip these off, we know the ones going into this we don't need. And then when we're done, to make this a slim harness, we'll probably even cut this, because we don't need this splice. We'll probably splice the wires that we do need just together with butt connectors. So several more hours of this, and yeah.
Don't worry, we won't put you through all of it.
Yeah.
Put the fuel leveler up so that it showed it had some gas. And we're going to hook the throttle pedal up too, so that if we do get the engine power reduced message, we know that it's because we clipped something we shouldn't have. So we hit our first snag when Mike cut the wires to this connector. Flues blew in. This spot of the fuse block. And we think it's just because when we unraveled the wires, it looked like heat from just being in there near the engine for a while melted them together. So there's obviously still some contact somewhere, and we gotta fix it. Right, bruh?
Yeah, looking for it.
Like we said, very tedious. So we were somewhat able to locate the source of the problem to a power wire on the other side of the connector that we were working on, so not even something that we were cutting, but again, kind of one of those problems with the wires being old and melted together. Mike has the Tech 2 out right now, and we're just making sure we can still get to, well, we can get to the ECM, and now he's checking the body control module, so we'll see how that goes. So do you want to go ahead and explain exactly what the problem was?
Well, the problem was that the instrument panel cluster didn't have communication to the body control module on the low speed data network.
Okay.
So these cars, like a lot of GM vehicles, have two networks. They have the high speed and they have the low speed. High speed's like the ECM, anything that requires a decent amount of processing. The low speed, obviously, as it sounds, is things like instrument cluster, keyless entry. There's a lot of things that run on the low speed. So when printing this harness out, obviously there was a couple wires that got snipped that were probably together in a connector, would be my guess. But until you know how it works, it's hard to troubleshoot. So the body control module is the gateway between all the other modules. So the body control module has to have a proper connection to the low speed and the high speed, because it's what it puts it out there for the instrument cluster and the other things to see the high speed data. So we had to repatch that wire into the instrument cluster, or basically the wiring harness going to the instrument cluster. We still have a little bit of cleanup to do on this harness, but you can see we really tried to clean up, even unused connectors going to the body control module. This is the minimum that it requires. And just for example, so like when you turn the key on, and you can look at the display where it says 0 miles an hour, that was just 3 dashes. And there was basically no information on the, like it couldn't see voltage or anything because it couldn't read any of those data points from the ECM. So if you're having a communication error on the low speed network, um, you should always check the body control module because it's the one that's going to be the gateway for all the other devices. So,
but like you said, it didn't end up actually being the body control module.
Nope, it was the connection to the body control module, but the module itself was good.
Yes.
Scan tool could communicate with the modules because they could communicate with the high speed and the low speed together. But the
they couldn't talk
instrument
to
cluster
each other.
doesn't have high speed data. It can only do low speed.
Right.
And the thing that puts the high speed information on the low speed network is the body control module. So without that, nothing else would broadcast that information to it. So that's why it was a little perplexing, because when we had the scan tool, we could communicate with all the devices. We could communicate with the body control module, the instrument panel cluster, and the engine computer, but they could not communicate amongst themselves.
And according to the wiring diagrams, you said that the GM LAN is on the dark green wires, right?
That's the low speed. That's the serial data. The GM LAN is brown and black and brown. I've seen that before with them. That's pretty common color scheme for them. So brown and black and brown coupled together is the high speed, and green on its own is the low speed. So
this is an example of a connector that we cut off that wasn't doing anything that we needed it to do, but it had the 2 low speed wires going into it. So what Mike had to make sure to do in order to get these modules to talk to each other again is to splice the low and high speed wires back together. And this is one of the areas that he did that in. Anything else?
No, just a lot more to do. So.
So this is the completed wiring harness. As you can see, it's definitely a lot smaller and should fit in the car a lot better. This is after several long and arduous hours. And over here we have everything that was cut off and removed. So that should fit a lot better.